Hi, Michael Young, CEO and founder of Transformed here. One question that comes up a lot when we're talking with potential clients is a series of questions that all relate to training delivery methods. So I thought I'd put together this short video to answer these questions and dispel a few myths. So what do I mean by delivery methods? Well, the delivery method is the approach that's used by a training provider to deliver training. Knowledge and skills are imparted in many different ways. So we're going to go through and look at a few different options in the way that training providers deliver training. In other words, the training delivery method. Firstly, there's two old school ways that we're going to look at. The first is classroom-based training. Traditionally, the primary method of learning was in a classroom where a knowledgeable person, i.e. the teacher, stood at the front of the room and lectured or directed the learning process. This is great when you have a group all at the same level, all of whom learn at the same rate, and all are in the same location. But the world is much busier now, so people can't get time away from work or can't attend a course in person. In addition, research has shown that people don't learn at the same pace, and each person has a differentiated preferred learning style. Even in schools, the method of learning has changed since many of us went to school. Many schools now use technology such as laptops and iPads as part of the learning process, and in most cases the teacher now is the facilitator of self-directed learning by students. They are no longer the sage on the stage lecturing from the front of the room. So there's some pros and some cons. So firstly, what are the advantages of classroom-based training? Firstly, it gives you the ability to interact with the teacher and ask questions. And it also gives you the ability to interact with other students and to share ideas. However, there are some cons, and of course, as we can see, the list is quite large. You must learn at the pace of the slowest student, so the learning isn't actually self-paced. So if you're faster or slower than other people, then that can be a problem. Much of the material doesn't cater for different learning styles. It's designed to be lectured from the front of the room. Thirdly, what is taught in the lesson can't be replayed or repeated at a later date or time. So if you're not there, if you can't attend, you miss the content. Material is often printed or even written on the whiteboard or blackboard, depending on how old the building is, and can't be viewed on smart devices or easily searchable. Quite often, time with the facilitator or the teacher is limited and is also spread across other learners, so discussions are often short, not all questions that are necessarily answered, and in particular, things that might come to you later, once you're outside the classroom, you really can't get those questions answered. What we also see is that the louder students tend to dominate, and as a result, you may not even get the attention you need or get your questions answered. Some people are just shy and don't want to ask questions in front of other people as well. The material has to be covered in the allocated time frame, even if this is not long enough. So this means that you can feel rushed or you seem to skip over a lot of the detail. There's also little or no flexibility. All classes occur at the scheduled time and place, and if you're not available or can't be there at that time or place, well, too bad. The next one is correspondence. Over 20 years ago, people who could not attend classes in person had the option of completing their study through correspondence. After a student enrolled, they were sent a big box of materials that contained folders full of printed notes, a textbook or two, and instructions what to do. More recently, there were CDs or DVDs, but in essence, it was the same type of thing. This requires the students to be self-motivated and organise themselves so they would spend time each day or each week to complete the reading, do the assignments, and so on. Now, there's some pros and cons, of course. The advantages are the learning is self-paced, so you can do as little or as much as you like each week, or as you have time available to spend on your study. All the materials are provided to you, so you don't need to go looking for anything. You don't need to search for textbooks and so on. You also don't need to attend classroom sessions, so that means you don't need to spend time travelling to a campus, or if you can't get time off work or whatever, you don't have to actually miss work because you do it in your own time at your own pace. There are some cons, however. You have no interaction with other students. Quite often you're there by yourself in your own room, studying away, and there's no real ability to interact with other students. There's also limited interaction with the instructor, apart from perhaps by email. There are often literally thousands of pages of materials to read. This can be boring and tedious, and given the fact that you don't have that interaction with other people, it's up to you to actually keep going and get it all done. Now, there's a number of what I call 21st century ways of learning. And the first of which we're going to look at is is a range of things. So times have changed, and particularly with the rise of the internet, there's no end to the possibilities to learn. We now have access to learning resources on our mobile phone, iPad or laptop, wherever we are. No longer do we need to be sitting in a classroom to learn, absorb and share knowledge and ideas with our peers. So let's look at online learning. So over the past few years, a significant increase of internet speeds have allowed real-time interactive online packages. These packages are often built to industry standards, such as SCORM, and are made available online or through e-learning systems. These packages have tests and quiz built in to test your knowledge as you progress through the module. Many large organisations use these packages for delivery of compliance training each year, covering topics such as fraud awareness, codes of conduct, and health and safety. Most packages contain a range of different content formats, such as videos, activities, quizzes, and written text, and the student progressively works through this material over a period of time at their own pace. Now, some of the advantages are the material is structured in an engaging way using a multitude of different media types. That makes it interesting. The learning is self-paced, so you can do as little or as much as you like each week. You don't need to attend classroom sessions, which means you don't need to travel to a campus or a classroom, and therefore you don't need to miss work. You can also find that there's no classroom distractions, so students have access to the learning material themselves, and you can do it pretty much anywhere at any time. There are some disadvantages. You have no interaction with other students. There can be limited interaction with the instructor apart from via email. It can be easy to put other commitments ahead of making time to study, and then you end up not doing anything at all. And depending on where you're studying, you may find that external interruptions can mean you lose productivity due to having to pause your learning and then return to it later. And so if you are going to undertake online learning, you need to make sure you have a quiet space where you can sit and focus and do what you need to do. There's also webinars, or sometimes referred to as a virtual classroom. So webinars or online seminars have been around for some time and involve both the instructor and students logging into an online webinar platform, usually at a specific date and time. Material is presented by the instructor, with students being able to make comments, chat with each other and ask questions as if they are sitting in the same room. The instructor generally shares their screen, so the students, as a student, you receive both a visual and auditory stimulus. Many systems also allow virtual collaboration or on documents, or have virtual whiteboards that you can actually, the instructor or you can collaborate on. Webinars are often recorded and made available later as a replay, usually as a video, and this is also tends to be made available via an online platform. The great things about webinars is you can have people located anywhere. There is an internet connection at any time. This practically means you don't need to travel to a physical classroom or campus, which can save you hours, not to mention the money for the cost of the trip. And that's particularly relevant if you're either in a very, very busy city, or perhaps you're living out of town, out of a city, and it's just impractical for you to get to a particular location. The interactive and chat capability also provides the benefits you get from being in a classroom, so you don't miss out. So the pros. You can access a webinar from work, home, a laptop, on a mobile phone, provided you have internet access. In fact, I know people that access webinars while they're sitting on the bus or the train. Live webinars are interactive, so you can ask questions as they come to you. Webinars can involve presenters from all around the world, so you can get access to some of the leading thinkers on any particular topic. Webinars are great to motivate you and keep you progressing with assessments. They provide you with excellent touch point each week or fortnight, and so are a great support for maintaining the momentum for you to get through that course. Webinars are usually recorded and can be rewatched at a later date and time. Often they schedule around lunchtime, so you don't need to interrupt the rest of your working day. So you can take time at lunchtime, duck into a meeting room or sit at your computer with the headphones on and listen to a webinar at that point in time. Now, there are some disadvantages. You obviously need to have decent internet access, particularly if there's video streaming. You need to commit to attending a series or commit to listening to recordings if you can't, so you don't get left behind or miss key topics that are covered over a longer period. Also, webinars with large numbers of participants can mean that you only are in listen-only mode, and you may not get a chance to actually ask any questions in person, although even in those instances you can use the chat function and that works really well. There's also a video-based training that's been introduced. So recent reports have indicated that the majority of people nowadays under 30 go to YouTube if they want to learn something. YouTube is now more popular than google.com on desktop computers, according to a recent media report. Video is a great format to learn, as you receive both visual and auditory stimulus, and best of all, you can stop and replay any part that doesn't make sense or you didn't quite get the first time. Video is also universally accessible via desktop or laptop computers, tablet devices and mobile phones, regardless of where you are. Many people are travel by public transport, can watch and listen to videos on their daily commute, so it allows them to make excellent use of that otherwise dead time. By using headphones, of course, it means that you don't interrupt other passengers. So the advantages of video-based training is that you can watch anywhere at any time. You can stop, rewind and replay it at any time. So if you miss a concept or don't quite get it hear it the first time, you can easily repeat it. You can save or add to a favourites list and categorise your videos. Links to information covered in the video are often provided in the video stream or a transcript. And the combination of sound and visual content allows you to grasp information more easily. Now, some of the disadvantages are, firstly, the video is not interactive, so you can't ask questions at the time whilst listening, but usually the best thing to do is to make some notes and then ask via email, either at the time it comes to you or shortly thereafter. And of course, because you're streaming video, you need a decent internet connection to do so. The last one we're going to look at is podcasts. Today, there are thousands of podcasts produced on almost every topic imaginable. Podcasts are streamed or downloaded audio recordings and are often interviews of influential or knowledgeable people. Podcasts are essentially a 21st century version of a radio show, and like video-based materials, can be listened to anywhere at any time. Now, of course, the advantages are you can listen anywhere at any time, and so it's great to listen to while you're driving or on public transport. You can access material produced all around the world on the topics you're interested in, and you can make your own notes while listening, and quite often they have links to information that's provided in the show notes or podcast notes, and they're made available on the host page for the podcast. Quite often they're presented in a conversational or story type format, and so those types of formats make it easy for you to remember and recall information. One of the only disadvantages, of course, is that they're not interactive, so you can't ask questions at the time while listening. But most presenters invite you to ask questions, email, and so on after the podcast, and that allows you to be interactive after the fact. So given these different types of methods, what do the leading training providers do? Well, firstly, the best training providers use a combination of 21st century methods to cater for different learning styles of each student. They use a combination of written materials, videos, webinars, podcasts, as well as interactive packages to ensure that students fully understand what is expected. Quite often these are also paired with online forums such as Facebook groups, which allow students to interact, share ideas, and also bounce around concepts, and also gives them the opportunity to ask questions. Unfortunately, many training providers are still stuck in the dark ages, preferring to offer courses through the old school classroom type approach. This is largely due to their lack of investment in systems and limited ongoing development of cutting edge and engaging learning materials. They've been doing it the same way for so many years, and they can't see necessarily a reason to change. So when we're looking for a training provider, ask them about how the training is delivered and work it out for yourself. You need to look at whether the approach is best for your learning style and whether the approach is up to date and innovative, or whether they're using the same delivery methods that our great-grandparents experienced in the 1990s. So to help you actually work out what you need to ask the training providers, we've actually put together a short checklist. So the first thing you need to ask is, what delivery methods do you use? You need to look at whether they're using the traditional classroom model or whether they're using 21st century learning models. You need to ask, do you only deliver training in classrooms? Is your material also available online? Quite often, the training provider that delivers material in classrooms either provides a textbook, or they may not provide anything online after the fact. So you only get printed material, which you need to store somewhere, you need to carry it around, and you can't search. How much of your material is in PDF format? You'll actually be quite surprised that the vast majority of training providers provide material only in PDF format. So it's only printed or written type material. There's very little that's provided in video or interactive format or webinars or anything of that nature. What materials are offered as interactive e-learning packages? This gives you a bit of an indication as to whether the training provider is sort of using 21st century methods or whether they're using 19th century classroom-based training. Do you offer any webinars? Most training providers don't. And if they do offer webinars, they charge you additional fees to participate and attend those. What material do you provide via video? You'll be surprised, but maybe not, that there's not many training providers actually providing any material at all via video. How does your material cater for different learning styles? So each person learns in different ways. We have different preferred methods of learning. For most people, the smallest group of people, in fact, learn through reading materials and through that type of visual type approach. The vast majority of people need different types of stimulus. In particular, you need video and auditory type stimulus. That's what actually helps most people learn. And so that's why we've seen a huge number of people take up YouTube, and whenever they're looking for a how-to type answer, the first place they go to is actually YouTube to find a video on how to do that. The other thing to ask is, do they offer any podcasts? And finally, what online groups or forums do you have for students to interact? Quite often what happens is, particularly if it's a classroom-based model, the only interaction you have is in the classroom. There is no offline or after classroom type discussion forums where people can ask questions, interact, help each other, share ideas, and bounce concepts around. So here's a brief checklist to help you get started. It's a brief checklist for you to interrogate and ask key poignant questions of training providers, and ultimately it allows you to make the best decisions as to which training provider is going to deliver you the best outcome.